ability.
Lovely. So let's start with an icebreaker with that. All of you, I want all of you to say what I'm saying, okay? I am a woman.
I am a woman.
I am a leader.
I
I
am
am a leader.
I am safe and protected.
I am safe and protected.
I am healthy, physically, emotionally, truly, madly, deeply.
I am healthy, physically, emotionally, truly.
I
Healthy.
take care of people and people take care of me.
I take care of people and people take care of me.
me.
And I'm a brand who is arriving in style.
And I am a brand who is arriving its style.
Feel good? Do we feel the positivity? Do we feel the energy?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yes, Shivani, good to go now.
Good to go? All
Yes.
right. So let's start the session. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shani Panigrahi. I'm joining you today from Bangalore as the regional head for SARVAM, an organization which is committed to advancing dignity with purpose through POSH advisory, capacity building, and workplace culture initiatives across organizations. Now, it's a privilege to welcome you all to SARVAM Dignity Dialogues 2026, a space where we come together to reflect on what dignity at work truly means in practice. If someone asked us a simple question today, does dignity really need a dedicated conversation? Many workplaces would probably say no. But the fact that all of us are here on a Sunday morning suggests something different. It suggests that dignity at work is not automatic. It is something we must actively build and protect. Let's acknowledge the obvious. It's Sunday, it's 10 a.m. We all have family callings and other duties and other, commitments. And yet, you have all chosen a conversation on workplace dignity over a relaxed Sunday. So that already says something about the sincerity and intent of the professionals in this room, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, we are borrowing 2 hours of your weekend, but we promise this will not be a typical symbolic International Women's Day ritual. Let's make this a Sunday for substance. Let's move beyond the 24-hour cycle of Women's Day posts and let's engage in meaningful dialogue on how dignity is actually experienced and protected in workplaces. Because at SARVAM, we believe dignity deserves more than a hashtag cycle, more than a LinkedIn post. It deserves reflection, constant calibration, and structures that quietly protect dignity at work. That is why today is not about celebration, it is about re-examination. We will not be dramatizing misconduct. Over the next 2 hours, what we will be doing is unraveling the subtle signals, the gray zones, the quiet adjustments, the invisible power dynamics that rarely appear in policy language, but they do shape our everyday experience. And we are privileged to explore these questions with leaders who bring honesty, maturity, and perspective to this dialogue. So while I welcome the leaders, do say hello so that people know your faces. We are honored to welcome Ms. Pallavi Salgaonkar, who will reflect on the adjustments many professionals have normalized early in their careers and what those compromises sometimes cost. Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi Agrawal, who will examine leadership blind spots with candor and courage. Ms. Ashwini Patwardhan, founder of SARVAM, whose work in this space reminds us that POSH is not about compliance. It is about culture design. And she will also guide us through today's dialogue. Today's session, SARVAM Dignity Dialogues 2026. It's intentionally designed as a moment of workplace calibration. So thank you once again for choosing substance over symbolism this Sunday. We did promise you a Sunday for substance. Let's begin. I now invite Ashwini Patwardhan, founder of SARVAM, to set the tone for Dignity Dialogues 2026.
Very good morning to all of you. Thank you, Shivani, for setting such a thoughtful context for today's dialogue and a very exciting Women's Day celebration for all of us. March 8th, International Women's Day today, a day when we see many messages celebrating the achievements and strength of women. And those celebrations, yes, they matter. But through dignity dialogues, we want to pause and go a step deeper. Not just to celebrate progress, but to reflect on how dignity is actually experienced in our workplaces every day. So, because dignity at work is rarely challenged only by big incidents, more often it is shaped by small moments, right? A voice that gets interrupted in a meeting, a joke that makes some people uncomfortable, an assumption about who should adjust or stay silent. Each movement may seem small, but over time, they shapes something much bigger: trust, confidence, and psychological safety at work. So at Sarvam, we believe something very simple, very simple. POSH is not only about responding to misconduct, it is about building workplaces where dignity does not depend on someone's ability to tolerate discomfort. Yeah. So, and this change cannot come from policy alone. So it comes from people within organizations, leaders, colleagues, and committee members who chose to build cultures of respect. We often call them posh warriors. Hashtag posh warriors. This is the concept which we drive, not because they fight battles every day, but because they help ensure that respect and safety become part of the everyday culture of work. Today's dialogue brings together voices who have reflected deeply on these realities. We are honored to have Mrs. Pallavi Salgaonkar from the state of Goa and Mrs. Priyanka Chaturvedi Agrawal from the state of Maharashtra. Both of them have their national level existence in many ways and through many roles they perform. So let me introduce our first speaker to all of you. Our first speaker, CA Pallavi Salgaonkar, brings together corporate leadership and entrepreneurship. She is the finance director at Geno Pharmaceuticals and the founder of Goa's well-known bakery brand Desserts and More. She also serves as the Goa State President of Laghu Udyog Bharati, representing the MSME community, and is a certified independent director, author, and columnist. Drawing from her journey across leadership and enterprise, Pallavi will reflect on a theme many professionals recognize: the insights she will be sharing on, the adjustments we normalize, and why they matter. So let's hear from her. Pallavi, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hello, good morning, everyone. So today's morning started with a lot of WhatsApp messages. Something which used to happen only on festivals earlier is now happening even on Women's Day. Earlier has to get very less. Now this time I got quite a lot. So wishing everyone a happy Women's Day. And though I must say I always had a complicated relationship with this day, because every year we celebrate women. We post quotes, we get flowers, some share a reel with an inspirational background score. The companies put up banners, HR sends a nice mail, and then on 9th March, everything goes back to normal. The biases come back, the assumptions come back, the invisible rules come back. So today, I don't want to celebrate. I want to have a conversation, a real one, an uncomfortable one maybe, and the invisible rules come back. So the kind we usually avoid because it makes people shift in their seats. I want to talk about adjustments that women make every single day at work, in business, in meetings, in factories, in boardrooms, in funding rounds, in government offices. Adjustments so quiet, so constant, that we have stopped noticing them. We have normalized them. We have internalized them. We have passed on them to our daughters and junior colleagues as advice. And that's normalization. That's exactly the problem. Because when you normalize something, you stop questioning it. And when you stop questioning it, it becomes permanent. It becomes the air we breathe. It becomes just the way things are. And today I would like to stop breathing that air for a few minutes and really look at it. So I want to break my conversation into different parts. So the first part I want to talk about is the adjustments we don't talk about. So let me start with a story, not someone else's story, mine. So early in my career, I was in a meeting, the only woman in a room full of men. I had done my homework. I had the numbers. I had prepared my talking points. I made my point clearly and concisely. And you know what happened? Nothing. No one responded. No one nodded. No one engaged. The conversation simply moved on as if I hadn't spoken at all. 5 minutes later, a male colleague said almost the same thing, and the room lit up. Great point, they said. That's exactly what we should do. And here's the interesting part. I didn't get angry. I didn't even feel surprised. I just adjusted. I told myself, okay, next time I'll say it differently. Maybe I wasn't loud enough. Maybe I should phrase it in a question instead of a statement. Maybe I should let someone else present the idea. Do you know what happened there? The room had a problem. It didn't listen to a woman, but I was the one who adjusted. I was the one who went home and rethought her entire approach. The room didn't change at all. And I'm willing to bet that almost every woman listening today has a version of this story. You may not remember the exact meeting or the exact words, but you remember that feeling. That quiet little deflation. That moment when you decide it was easier to adapt than to fight. These adjustments show up in so many ways. Let me name a few and see if they sound familiar. First is a volume adjustment. You learn to soften your voice so that you don't come across as too aggressive. You modulate your voice, your tone, you add qualifiers. You say, I think maybe, instead of this is what we should do. A man with the same tone is called as confident, decisive, you, difficult, abrasive. The timing adjustment. You learn to wait your turn in meetings, not because you didn't have something to say, but because if you speak too soon, you are interrupting. If you speak too forcefully, you are dominating. If a man does the same thing, he is enthusiastic. He is a go-getter. Next is the appearance adjustment. You spend an extra 20 minutes in the morning making sure you look professional enough. Not too formal, not too casual, not too much makeup, not too little. You think whether your outfit will be taken seriously or whether it will become a topic of conversation instead of your presentation. Men, they just throw on a shirt and walk out of the door. The ambition adjustment. You learn not to talk too much about your goals because ambitious women make people uncomfortable. So you frame your achievements as luck or teamwork, or I just happen to be in the right place. Meanwhile, your male colleagues are celebrated for aiming higher, dreaming bigger, wanting more. The safety adjustment. You check the time before leaving the office. You share your live location with a friend or a family member. You avoid certain client meetings after dark. You park your car under the street light, not the corner. This is so normal for us, so deeply embedded in our daily routine that we don't call it an adjustment anymore. We call it being careful. We call it common sense. And it's not common sense, it's a tax, a daily tax on our freedom. And there's one more adjustment I want to add to this list. One that cuts perhaps the deepest of all. The credibility adjustment. You walk into a room with every qualification required, the degree, the experience, the track record, and you still have to prove you belong there. Not once, not twice, constantly. Let me tell what I mean. More than 2 decades ago, I was elected to a board of a cooperative bank. I am a professionally qualified chartered accountant and was elected specifically to fit the CA seat on the board. This wasn't a favor. This wasn't a nomination out of courtesy. I had earned my place through my professional qualification and democratic election. I remember my first annual general meeting as a board member. The hall was full, shareholders, staff, other directors. And one shareholder stood up in the audience and said, aloud for everyone to hear, is she elected to be a showpiece on the board? A showpiece, not a professional, not a chartered accountant, not someone elected by the members. A showpiece, an ornament, someone nice to look at, but not to be taken seriously. I was stunned. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I didn't shout. I didn't make a scene. But after the meeting, I walked up to that person, looked at him in the eye, and said calmly, my work will speak for why I was elected to this board. And it did. Over time, it absolutely did. My work spoke louder than his words could ever. And here's what stayed with me, and what stays with me even today, more than 20 years later. Would that shareholder have said the same thing if a male CA had been sitting in my chair? Would he have questioned a man's presence on the board? We all know the answer. He wouldn't have. He wouldn't have even thought of it. That's a credibility adjustment. We just don't do the work.
Civil defense.
You do the
Civil
work.
defense.
Pallavi madam, please unmute yourself. I think everybody got mute.
So that's a credibility statement. You just don't do the work. You do the work and then you spend years proving you deserve to do the work. And even after you have proved it, there's always someone new who needs convincing. Now, part 2 of my conversation is when professionalism becomes self-erasure. Now, here it gets deeper. Many of these adjustments are packaged to us as professionalism. We are told, don't be emotional, don't be passionate, don't bring personal problems to work. Be agreeable, be collaborative, don't rock the boat, smile more, be a team member. And slowly, bit by bit, professionalism becomes a code word for self-erasure. You erase your instincts, you erase your voice, you erase parts of that might make someone uncomfortable. And what's left? A version of you that's palatable, manageable, and easy to overlook. I will give you a real example. I know a woman, brilliant entrepreneur in the MSME sector, who was negotiating a government contract. She had built the product, she had delivered on time, she had done everything right, but the payment was stuck for months. When she followed up, politely, professionally, through proper channels, she was told, be patient, ma'am, these things take time. A male vendor in the same situation, he banged the table, he called the officer directly, he escalated. He got his payments in 2 weeks. She told me later I couldn't do it. If I had raised my voice, they could have called me hysterical. They would have said I'm difficult to work with. They would have stopped working with me entirely. So she adjusted. She waited and she was professional. And what did that professionalism cost her? Cash flow, confidence, the ability to reinvest in a business at a critical time, and a little piece of a self-respect, the kind you don't get back easily. This is the tax nobody talks about, the invisible tax of being a woman in business. And this invisible tax, it doesn't show up in boardrooms and government offices. It shows up in the smallest, most casual interactions, in the assumptions people make before they even see your face. Just 2 or 3 years ago, there was a major urban cooperative bank summit here in Goa. I decided to register as a director in the urban cooperative bank, which I am. While registering online, I ran into a few technical glitches, so I called up the helpline for assistance. I told the person on the phone, I'm trying to register for the summit. Can you help me with the process? And he said, with a genuine surprise in his voice, but ma'am, this registration is for urban cooperative bank directors. I said, I know, I'm one. There was silence on the other end of the phone. You could almost hear him recalibrating. When I met him at the event, he apologized profusely. And I appreciated that. I genuinely did. But think about what happened then. This is 2023 or 2024, not the 1990s, not some distant era where women in banking were unheard of. A person on a helpline whose job it was to facilitate registrations could not imagine that the voice of the woman on the phone could belong to a bank director. And yes, women were a small minority at the summit, but that's exactly the point. The fewer of us there are in these spaces, the more invisible we become, even to people whose job it is to help us get in. The assumption wasn't malicious. It wasn't deliberate. That's what makes it dangerous. Because the most powerful biases are the ones nobody notices, not even in the people who hold them. I go to part 3, that is silent tolerance versus strategic silence. Now I want to make an important distinction because I don't want anyone to walk away from a speech thinking that all silence is weakness. That's not true. Not every silence is surrender. Sometimes women choose strategic silence. They observe, they wait, they read the room. They pick the right moment. That's wisdom. That's intelligence. That's a skill many men could also learn from. But there's a big difference between choosing silence and being silenced. Strategic silence says, I know my power. I'm choosing when to use it. Silent tolerance says, I don't think I have power, so I'll just bear it. The problem is, after years of adjusting, many women can't tell the difference anymore. The line between the two has blurred. And what started as a conscious choice gradually becomes a reflex. You stop speaking up not because you're choosing the right moment, but because you've forgotten that your moment matters. I've seen this in our MSME ecosystem. Women who run factories, who manage supply chains, who employ hundreds of people, who meet payroll every month, and yet in a government meeting, they sit at the back. They don't ask questions. They let their male partners or colleagues speak on their behalf. They make themselves small in spaces where they have every right to stand tall. Not because they can't, but because years of adjusting has convinced them that the front row isn't their place. And it's not just government meetings. It happens in the most modern, supposedly progressive spaces too. A close friend of mine co-founded a business with her husband, equal partners. She was instrumental in building the product, shaping the strategy, driving the vision. When they started seeking funding, she attended the early rounds of meeting with venture capitalists and private equity investors. And you know what happened? Every time she walked into the room, she was met with a barrage of questions that had nothing to do with her business. When are you planning to start your family? What about your aged parents and in-laws at home? How do you manage to balance home and office? Not questions about revenue projection, not about market fit, not about unit economics or customer acquisition, questions about her uterus and her kitchen. Her husband, the co-founder, remember in the same business, with the same stake, never got asked such questions. Not once. No one asked him when he was planning to start a family. No one asked him to take care of elders at home. No one questioned whether he could balance his life. So what did she do? She stopped attending the funding rounds. She sent her husband instead. Not because she wasn't capable, not because she didn't know the numbers better than anyone, but because the room had made it clear you will be evaluated differently. Your competence will always be weighed against your biology. She adjusted and the business got funded. But think about what was lost in the adjustment. A co-founder was erased from the most critical meetings of her own company's journey. Her voice, her vision, her passion removed from the table, not by choice, by exhaustion. This is what happens when the adjustment becomes so heavy that it's easier to step back than to keep pushing against the wall. And this is happening today, in 2026, in rooms full of educated, sophisticated, so-called progressive investors. If we can't even ask a woman about her business without first interrogating her about her personal life, why exactly are we celebrating on Women's Day? I will share another story, a deeply personal one. When I joined my family's pharmaceutical business more than 2 decades ago, my father-in-law, a wise man, recognized that since I came from the accounting side and didn't have yet any hands-on technical knowledge, it would be good for me to spend some time in the production department. Learn the nitty-gritties of pharmaceutical manufacturing from the ground up. Understand the machines, the formulations, the processes. So this was sound advice and practical advice. But the production manager at that time, his body language told a completely different story. Every gesture, every look, every half-turned shoulder, every delayed response said the same thing. Why should the daughter-in-law get involved in the business? What does she know? She's from the accounting line. She doesn't belong here. He never said it in so many words. He didn't have to. Resistance doesn't always come with a megaphone. Sometimes it comes with a cold shoulder, a dismissive nod, and a question that's answered with half the detail it deserves. Now, I could have gone back to my father-in-law and complained. I could have made it an issue. But I decided no, I was not going to be a complaint box. I'm going to find my own way. I'm going to learn despite the resistance. I'm going to earn my knowledge the hard way because no one has taken away what you have truly learned. And slowly I did. Slowly, steadily, stubbornly, I did. That was 2 decades ago. Today, the same departments report to me at the back of a call. And I'm so glad to say that today we have far more women in pharma, not just in office and admin roles, but on the shop floor, in quality control, in production supervision, in regulatory affairs. The landscape has changed, not completely, but meaningfully. And it changed because some of us refused to let that silence resistance win. We didn't always fight loudly. Sometimes we just stayed. We showed up. Day after day, we learned, we proved ourselves again and again and again. And when no one was rooting for us, even when the body language in the room screamed, "You don't belong here." The question is, should every woman have to go through that? Should proving yourself despite a hostility be a rite of passage? Or should the room already be ready for when she walks in? I think we know the answer. The room should be ready. And if it's not, then the room needs to change, not the woman. Part 4, what I would like to say is what I would not normalize today. So here's a part where I get personal, where even more personal than I've already been today. If I could go back to my younger self, the chartered accountant walking into the first AGM, that daughter-in-law standing on the production floor, that woman on the phone with the helpline operator who couldn't believe she was a director, these are things I would refuse to normalize. I would not normalize being the only woman in the room and pretending it's fine. It's not fine. It means the system isn't working. It means someone somewhere isn't opening the door wide enough. I would not normalize doing twice the work for half the recognition If my work speaks, it would speak at the same volume regardless of the gender. I would not normalize being called too ambitious. Ambition is not a character flaw. It is a fuel. It's what built every business, every institution, every movement worth remembering. I would not normalize laughing at jokes that made me uncomfortable just to fit in with the group. Discomfort is not the price of belonging. I would not normalize being called a showpiece when I'd earned my seat at the table with a professional qualification and an election. I would not normalize a helpline operator assuming I couldn't possibly be a bank director just because of the sound of my voice. I would not normalize a woman co-founder disappearing from her own funding meetings, funding meetings because investors couldn't stop asking her family plans instead of a business plan. And I would definitely not normalize accepting delayed payments with a smile while watching others get there on time because they shouted louder. The POSH Act exists for a reason. The laws are there. The frameworks are there. The laws only protect you if you know they exist and if you believe you deserve that protection. And that too, many women, especially in small businesses and MSMEs, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, especially on factory floors and in factory and family businesses, either don't know their rights or have been deeply conditioned that they believe that these rights are not meant for them anymore. That conditioning is what we need to break, not just the laws, the conditioning. And part 5, what I want to say is what needs to change. So what is the way forward? I don't have a magic formula. I wish I did. But I have a few things I deeply believe in. Things I've learned not from textbooks, but from 2 decades of being in rooms where I wasn't always welcome. First, we need to stop romanticizing struggle. Not everything hard is heroic. Sometimes it's just unfair. Sometimes the struggle isn't building the character. It's just wearing you down. You should have the courage to call it unfair even when the world tells you to be grateful. Second is workplaces need to measure fairness, not just productivity. Ask a woman employees, do you feel heard? Do you feel safe? Do you feel you can grow better? Do you feel your contributions are recognized the same way as your male colleagues? If the answer is no, that's not a woman's problem. That's an organizational problem, and it needs an organizational solution. Third is men need to be a part of this conversation. I cannot stress this enough. These adjustments women make don't happen in isolation. They happen in response to an environment shaped mostly by men. The meeting room where the woman's point was ignored, mostly men. The investor room where the co-founder was asked about her family, all men. The shareholder who called me a showpiece, a man. This isn't a woman's issue, it's a workplace culture issue. And the culture is shaped by everyone in the room. Fourth is we must have awareness. POSH training should not be just a tick box exercise. It should be a 1-hour seminar. It shouldn't be a 1-hour seminar that people sleep through. It should be a conversation. It should be like, what are we doing today? Honest, open, personal, and a little uncomfortable. Because comfort never changed anything. And fifth, this is very close to my heart, we need more women in spaces where we are still a minority. On bank boards, at industry summits, on production floors, in funding meetings, in policy rooms, not as tokens, not as showpieces, not as the only woman on the panel, but as professionals, as leaders, as decision makers, as co-founders who stay in the room. Because the more of us are there who show up, the less anyone has to explain why she's there. And the more a helpline operator, he will hear a woman's voice and think, of course, she's a director. So on a closing, I want to talk about the future we are building. I want to close with something I feel very strongly about. This initiative, Dignity Dialogues, is not just an event. It is not just a webinar on Women's Day. It's a signal. It says that we are ready to talk about things we have been quietly adjusting so far for decades. It says that dignity at work is not a luxury, not a benefit, not a perk. It's a right, a fundamental, non negotiable right. And it says that the adjustments we normalized, we see them now. We are naming them, we are choosing consciously, deliberately not to pass on them to the next generation. 20 years ago, a shareholder called me a showpiece. I answered with my work. 2 or 3 years ago, a helpline operator couldn't believe a woman's voice could belong to a bank director. I told him who I was. 2 decades ago, a manager didn't want the daughter-in-law of the owner anywhere near his department. I stayed anyway. As a friend of mine, a co-founder, stopped attending her own funding meetings because the room couldn't see past her gender. This should never happen again. I'm still here. We are all still here. And we are not adjusting anymore. We are building, we are leading, we are speaking. I'll leave you with a thought. The most powerful thing a woman can do is stop adjusting herself and start adjusting the room. Thank you, and let's keep this conversation going. Not just today, but every day. Not just on stages, but in meeting rooms, in factories, in funding rounds, in policy offices, and at kitchen tables. Happy Women's Day, and this time, let's make sure March 9 is different. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Pallavi ma'am. It's
Thank you.
absolutely a pleasure to listen to you. I should take just a moment that everybody is clapping for you. And really, it is great insight.
I
Actually, your
try to tell
words.
as much from my life experiences as possible.
Yes, yes, yes. That's what I am supposed to say. Your words, your personal experiences, your practical examples have been really thought provoking, very insightful. And yes, I'm sure the audience is definitely going deep thinking mode. The one who experiences can reflect from within. And you not only shared your personal experience, but you have given solution and directions with basic requirements, and that is first basic thing. Believe in yourself. That is a strong message. You are a live example of it. So definitely we are blessed to have you and have your words. Your own experience shared gave a more strong portrayal of yours. I really tell you honestly than I ever knew. You are always amazing, and now I understood why you always help and uplift budding women professionals like me so selflessly and without any expectations. On one call, you confirm your availability for dignity dialogues of Sarvam. So this is really, really, very special for us, and I'm sure many would have connected their experiences, and further they would relate more. So I will. We are having a flow of events, so I will not take much time right now. I really thank you very much, and we are yet to hear from you in our panel discussion. So I quickly invite Amit, our regional head for Maharashtra region, to conduct the reality check through poll. So let me hand over to Amit. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ashwini. Hope I am clearly audible to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, wow, that was a very honest and a relatable reflection by Pallavi ji. And I'm sure many of us here could connect to some of those moments from our own early careers, as well as the career we are pursuing as of now. Before we move ahead, I would think let's hear from the audience for a moment. Let's get their interaction. Let's get their understanding of the story. And one thing that I noticed is something really interesting about workplaces, and I'm sure most of us would relate. The most honest feedback usually appears in two places. the popular chai coffee conversations in office, and the second are anonymous polls. So let's see what today's poll reveals. Let's bring up the first poll. The poll will be open for next 2-3 minutes in the interest of time of our event. So I'm just opening the first poll. I would like the participants to actively participate and give in their inputs. I hope everybody is able to submit their opinions.
Yes, Amit, we can.
So can you just repeat it?
I'm sorry.
I didn't get it. Can you just repeat?
Is this for me? I have opened the poll for the first set of poll for this session. If you can just see it on the screen and submit your opinion, the poll question.
Okay.
Yeah, hardly 6 questions, not more, to just get a feel of the pulse of the event from the participants.
Amit, I'm a woman. I also submitted.
Grateful. And it really, I must admit, it really feels great to be a part of an event along with my team where I am thankfully in the minority here, gender-wise, and to be a part of a platform where we are hosting so many successful women, so many successful people in their own arena. So good to have such an interaction on a Sunday. I can see 18 of us have submitted, so maybe just half a minute more so that we can end this poll and move on with the next segment. By the way, the first set of poll, as the title mentions, it is relating the adjustments we normalize, something which Pallavi ji threw light on during her good words with us.
Pallavi ma'am is the author, right? I want to read her books. I'll connect with her later. I mean, I could make that out the way she outlined everything, right from her, all the adjustments to the self-erasure to
I've spoken to
strategic
some of
silence.
twice, yeah, at some other programs, but this time I put all the points together. So
That
this
was beautiful,
And,
very
and,
well
and
articulated.
what came out very well is the candidness and the honesty of sharing these experiences, however personal they may be. So that's a good part. We learn from each other's personal and very close experiences. It's a good learning for all of us. Thank you, ma'am. So I believe in the interest of time, we have exceeded 3 minutes. I'll be ending the poll and let's see what it throws us. Uh, are you able to see the results on the screen?
Yeah.
One of you? Yeah, so just to get a feel, I think the responses are very interesting. Yeah, I must thank everyone for participating in the poll. I think what this shows is most of these experiences, if not many, are not isolated. They are patterns that several professionals actually recognize and go through. And that really connects very closely with what Pallavi ji just shared here. So it's a reflection of everybody's personal experiences and learnings as we go through in our respective careers. Well, I believe it's time to get on to the next session, and I would again invite Ashwini to do the honors here.
So can you just speak a bit loud?
Me? Sure, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Okay, so are you doing it right now or afterwards? I will take it further. Okay. So thank you, Amit, and all the participants for participating in reality check, because that is very important. Participation is what matters a lot. And definitely it helps each other to share our experiences and arrive at certain common conclusions and solutions. So yes, as Amit said, though he is in minority, you are a strong supporter always. And in fact, the Dignity Dialogues is the brainchild of our only male RH over here. And we have taken it up. So that's a beautiful gift from our minority to all the women on this Women's Day. Thank you for that. Now let's move further. So let me introduce our second speaker for the day now. Our second speaker. Now I met her in GCCI's event which happened in Goa, and I was very much impressed with her personality. That is, and the way she has shared all her inputs, knowledge. It was really great. So I'm really thankful to CA Priyanka Chaturvedi Agrawal, who is bringing her deep expertise in inclusion, governance, and human behavior. She is the co-founder of Ally of Inclusion and has previously served as the director of KPMG India and ESG director at BNP Paribas globally. So Priyanka is also a psychotherapist and REBT practitioner, bringing behavioral insight to conversations on workplace culture and conclusion. So we are very much eager to hear you, Priyanka. And now, without wasting much time, over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And Pallavi ma'am, my throat was all choked up because I've spent 27 years in corporate India. I did my CA in 2001 with KPMG, and everything you said, I think, resonated deeply. I have two daughters, 20 and 16. And I think the reason I've shifted to doing the work that I do now is I hope that the world is kinder to them than they were to us, and that at some level that they receive the equity that we've been fighting for. So I think without I know time is of essence here, so I'm going to very quickly jump into this conversation about workplace safety and bring in the experience that I've had as an employee, as a PoSH external member, as a trainer facilitator. One second. Just to make sure that everyone is alive and present and not sleeping off or multitasking, can people very quickly, on the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and tell me what is the full form of PoSH? I mean, it's called PoSH. It's become like a meme now, and most men have created jokes around it. So can anyone tell me what does PoSH stand for? What are the three key elements of PoSH?
PoSH stands, Roshni here. PoSH stands for Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hello.
Thank you, Roshni, for participating. Thank you so very much. Okay, so PoSH actually, the prevention aspect, I'm sorry, my screen's not moving, so I'm just going to try and see what is wrong with it.
You can stop sharing and reshare it again.
I'm trying, but somehow tech is always. Okay, let's try this again. Okay. Now, POSH, unfortunately, most people, even companies that are doing really well for many years together, there are three key elements, and most organizations, most professionals, most external committee members focus only on the redressal aspect. But POSH talks about prohibition, prevention, and redressal of sexual harassment at the workplace. But let's get real, right? I mean, you can have a law, and we know that India is known for its jugaad. All of us have at some stage broken a law. We've bribed maybe traffic constables. We all know how to get around law. So let's get real. When I talk about POSH, I use this example a lot. Has everyone been at a large Indian family wedding? Can I get a show of hands? Can I get a thumbs up? Yeah, all of us have been to a wedding. We've hosted weddings. We've attended weddings. Now, at Indian weddings, there is always one senior member of the family. Normally, it's the tau or the jija or the fufa who is badly behaved. Drinks too much, makes too much noise. And instead of combating the problem or telling this person to behave, generation after generation, we talk about, wo to aise hi hai. Let it be, let it go. We try and warn the women to say, stay away from this person because, he tries to misbehave or overreact. But we don't ever try and approach the problem by saying, there's a problem in the system. Let's do something about it. Just like that, in Indian workplace, and we all know, if you sit for 2 minutes and think about who are the troublemakers in your organization, who are the ones that are constantly making the situation at work uncomfortable with their jokes, with their, with the microaggressions, that actually is the crux of the POSH Act. To say that we have a culture in India where we are not encouraged to say no. Women especially, right? I mean, Pallavi ma'am spoke about it, is you're expected to tone down. Being feminine means you can't say no. You're always supposed to make everyone happy. So instead of facing the problem head on, instead of calling it out, naming it out, and solving the problem, we learn and we teach others to avoid or manage bad behavior. And very, very glorified, we normalize this culture. That हमारे यहाँ तो वैसे ही होता है. That our culture is of silence, our culture is of giving respect because someone is senior, because someone has been in the organization for very, very long. And this becomes business as usual. This normalizing bad behavior over decades and decades of conditioning becomes culture. So sexual harassment, for everyone out there, we all know that it doesn't just happen out of the blue. Yes, there are some instances where, it could be a random event at an offsite or a party. But more often than not, like we have children, right? For people who've worked with children or raised children or been around children, the minute you allow a behavior to go unpunished or unchecked, it becomes bigger and bigger. And the thing about harassment and even sexual harassment is it's almost always about power. We are very intelligent. I will not go and harass my boss who is senior, even if I'm hugely attracted to him or I think he's an idiot. But I will not harass someone who has more power than me, but I will always try and take leeway with people who have less power. Think about how we treat people who serve us at restaurants, our cab drivers, our domestic help. Our ability to control our behaviors, therefore, is we can be nice when we want to. We can control our urges when we want to. And we will always do it with people who have more power. Therefore, sexual harassment is about power. Over a period of time, when there is unaddressed bad behavior, microaggressions. By microaggressions, I mean, those subtle conversations around, oh, you're a woman, you should not dress this way, don't go out at this hour, stay away from so and so people. The jokes about women, the jokes about, body shaming, all of those things, unprofessional conduct at work. This actually is the making of the sexual harassment bomb. It doesn't happen in a silo. It happens over years and years of conditioning of bad behavior that is normalized. And हमारे यहाँ तो ऐसे ही होता है. This is how we are. I work with the Indian Drug Manufacturers Association. Pallavi ma'am, I hope to see you at some of their events. And I work with the Event and Entertainment Management Association. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had leaders telling me that, oh, but we are like that. I mean, if you are in sales, then abusing, using BCMC, bad words is part of our culture. Now, these are the same people who, when they are around their family or around their friends, or if someone uses bad behavior or bad language around their women, they have a different take on it. But so much of the bad behavior has been normalized to say, we are like this only, and what is the problem? The problem, therefore, and the first question that I want to put out there and make this Women's Day a little bit about accountability and thinking is, are we ready to acknowledge and accept the normalized harmful culture at our workplace? Are we ready to, starting tomorrow, because I'm hoping that, like most Women's Day, 9th March becomes just another day, everything else is forgotten, is even if you're PoSH compliant, can you acknowledge and accept some of the behaviors and harmful culture that has been normalized at your workplace? Moving on, the focus of PoSH, and this is rather unfortunate, has generally been on redressal. I am yet to meet an internal committee that looks at PoSH from a prevention and prohibition angle. I also have a lot of clients who say, oh, hamare yahan to 0 cases hain. So let me tell you that 0 cases is the biggest red flag. We all know that even in our families of 4, 6, 8 people, when we talk and when we have problems with each other, that's healthy. So to say that an organization has no complaints and everyone's happy, this is not a Karan Johar film. This is not a Suraj Barjatia film. So if your organization says we have 0 cases, that actually is the biggest red flag. And it's important that we go back to our organizations and talk to the internal committee to say that redressal is not the only goal of PoSH. It is prevention, prohibition. Therefore, in 2016, the internal complaints committee became the internal committee. A lot of people still say ICC, but I hope that starting tomorrow, you can call your committee is the internal committee, because the idea of the law was to make sure that the internal committee looked at all 3 aspects, which is prevention, prohibition, and redressal. Prohibition is a state where it's 0 tolerance. Like there are states in India where alcohol is prohibited. That was the vision of the law, to say sexual harassment has to be prohibited. And the way to do this is prevention and also timely and proper redressal of complaints. Now, what does prevention need? Redressal, I'm sure we all know, because the law lays down a very clear process of natural justice, 3 months, 90 days. That part, I think, is taken care of, and people spend a lot of time on redressal. But the real thing about PoSH is listening and addressing to what is not said. A lot of things, I think, Pallavi ma'am, thank you. You've covered most of my presentation, so I'm truly grateful. Is the internal committee needs to also listen to what is not being said explicitly. The most powerful way is the office grapevine, the gossip. And I think Amit mentioned it, the chai pe charcha at offices, the conversations that happen when people are meeting up for lunch. We need to also look at data. Where are the teams with high attrition of good talent? Where are the teams where women are being hired, but they are leaving? What is happening at your office parties and offsites? Obviously, not everything you hear is true, but it may be a very good idea to be aware of what is being spoken but not said in the organization. Extremely important, and here is my second problem with PoSH, is the law actually isn't leader ki rahe. Safety has to be led from the top. Every company you see, whether it's a top 500 listed to startups, they talk about culture a lot, right? Culture, and culture eats strategy for breakfast. But how often do we see PoSH being led from the top? Through action and through frequent sound bites and campaigns from leaders. Because HR is not accountable for culture and safety. HR has a role to play as far as compliance goes, but somehow HR has become the flag bearer of PoSH, which doesn't work, because the tone for safety and culture starts with safety, has to be led from the top, from the leaders, and through behaviors, through action, and obviously pushing people to ensure that professional conduct becomes the cornerstone of safety. Sensitization, again, I heard, I think Pallavi ma'am in the end, and even Amit and Ashwini spoke about this, to say we cannot have safety if we don't have bystander intervention. I'm sure each one of us here, every one of us here has at some time chosen to stay silent. As long as it's not happening to me, as long as it's not happening to my loved one, I am safe. And I think today's geopolitical scenario, where we have friends and family in the Middle East, we often think that we are immune from what is happening in the world around, right? But we are not. And the world today shows you that the longer you choose to keep silent, the longer you choose not to call out bad behavior, the worse the problem is becoming. And someday this could also happen to you. Now, when you do trainings around bystander intervention, please make sure that you tell bystanders, especially managers, that they should look after their safety first and not be heroes. So bystander intervention has to be taught to managers, to leaders, and to every person working in the organization, so that safety becomes a shared goal. It's not just about the victim coming in saying that, oh, I have a complaint and I would like redressal. It actually stands with the organization playing a very large role, every individual playing a role to say, I stand for safety and I will not take any violation lying down. All of this that I'm telling you, and I mean, it's all very good in theory, but if you're icy and have broken the word into trust and worthy, because even today, 90% of internal committees are not worthy, they're not trained, they don't have the basic qualification, and I mean qualification in terms of, can you trust them? Have you checked for biases? Have you checked for independence? Have you checked for conflict of interest? Therefore, all of this, PoSH, safety, redressal, prevention, everything is useless if your internal committee is not trustworthy. And here is where the SheBox portal is going to be a game changer, because finally the government has woken up and taken notice and said that, okay, if you don't trust the IC, please come and register your complaint on the SheBox portal. And while it remains to be seen how effective that is going to be, I have a lot of hope. But again, the next touch point for you is go back and check whether your internal committee is trustworthy. And the biggest test is if people are not coming and talking to the internal committee, even with their informal complaints and problems, you know that you have a problem. PoSH is therefore not a compliance. As a chartered accountant, I mean, I have looked at compliance and governance very closely. And GST is a compliance. Excise is a compliance. Your foreign exchange is a compliance, because there are forms to be filled and you are compliant or not. PoSH is a human law. Therefore, there is a compliance aspect, which we know a lot of people just fill forms in December and it's done with. But actually, PoSH is the foundation to culture, and it has to be a leadership KPI. Now, My second question to you when you go back tomorrow to work is your internal committee and are your leaders doing their job as far as leading by example? Are they people that your organization can trust and respect, or are they the problem in the organization? Now, the test, as far as, I mean, the biggest test of trustworthiness is, do people feel comfortable going to the internal committee with their informal complaints? If not, then it requires you to take a hard look at your internal committee and request for a change if required. My last slide now, coming to, we all know compliance. Every client I talk to, every person I meet is aware of PoSH compliance. You know, the report that you fill, what are the questions? Everyone's been doing it for 14 years, yet somehow workplaces are still not as safe as they should be. One would assume that after 11, 12 years of the law being in place, that safety would have been achieved, because in our country, you can't do business without a GST registration. But clearly, you can have a loosey-woosey PoSH compliance and still get away with murder. So let's talk about preventive PoSH implementation and not PoSH compliance. This is the basic bare minimum that most companies are already doing. Like it's become like a tick box, right? That's why the slide shows a checkbox. You need to disseminate PoSH policy. You need to have posters with details mentioned. You need to have your annual report and disclosures. You need employee awareness, training your employees. And I know that most HRs struggle with getting people to attend workshops. It's like I have seen HRs running across floors physically, calling team leaders, calling employees to say, "Aaj PoSH workshop hai, please join kar lo." The third is your internal committee. You need to constitute the IC as per the PoSH Act. You need to train and empower them. You need to register your IC locally wherever you're registered, and now also on the SHE-box. But what is required for a PoSH preventive implementation is the policy, and this works, is most of the time PoSH becomes this Nari Morcha. And that's why the law has given you the right to implement this for all genders. Now, the way we implement PoSH at the organizations we work for is, of course, the compliance for PoSH is women. But there is no harm in extending protection to all genders, because today India is a global economic superpower and there are 170 genders in the world. Now, when you have a gender neutral policy in an employee-friendly language, most organizations just copy-paste the PoSH Act to their policy. Your employees are not concerned with compliance. They don't care. They want to know how they should behave. They want to know what are acceptable and unacceptable behaviors and what are they supposed to do when things are not happening in a professional manner. Now, by gender neutral policy, I mean the internal committee should address sexual harassment problems for all genders. Your compliance continues to be only for your women employees. But the minute you make it gender neutral, right, the pushback that comes from the male members, especially in the organization, who say that women weaponize PoSH, that stops. That's my learning of 27 years. I have never, while I was working with KPMG, BNP Paribas, we did have PoSH compliance, but the PoSH implementation was done for all genders. Very quickly, the men folks stopped complaining because we were like, okay, if you're feeling unsafe, please come to the internal committee and we will help you. So one policy for all, keep it gender neutral. Embed PoSH into your, if you have a diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, DIB, DNI, whatever you call your team, and if you have ESG, it is a great idea to pull PoSH into ESG and DI so that it becomes separated from the HR agenda and becomes part of leadership conversation. Also very, very important that businesses have become global. We no longer operate in offices anymore, right? Like physical spaces where it's easy to keep track of people to see whether people are safe. PoSH compliance or PoSH implementation has to become part of all your business touchpoints. With clients, when you have client contracts, you must include it in the contract to say, I hope you are PoSH compliant. Your vendors, your contractors across your supply chains, because you are accountable for the safety of your people, and your people are now operating across the world. Online, when you have webinars like this. Therefore, it's very important that when you look at PoSH as a preventive mechanism to make sure that your ecosystem is safe. When we talk about employee awareness, please don't call it PoSH awareness, because chances are you will never get attendance. You turn PoSH trainings into meaningful L&D. Talk about professional behavior. Talk about things that people require to inculcate to be professionals, right? And how becoming a professional, developing emotional quotient makes you grow in your career. Don't talk about PoSH as a blame, shame, men versus women kind of agenda, because you will never be able to collectively address safety in your organization if you isolate one gender in the organization. Very important to also have bias and bystander training. And I would recommend, and this is something I think we are planning with SARVAM, and Ashwini will reach out to you separately, is now with SheBox portal coming in as your single source of compliance, think about technology and e-courses where you do have shared accountability, where employees can upskill and train themselves at their own convenience, and you can test them. It's not a workshop where half of the people are on their laptop, others just come, sign the muster and leave. Think about employee awareness, which also mitigates the risk for your organization and which creates meaningful learning and development, because employees want to know what is in it for me. Your internal committee I just mentioned is the most fundamental part of PoSH implementation. It is the heart of safety in an organization. They have to be trained for prevention and prohibition. The focus is too much on redressal, and I can give you statistics from the Ministry of Child and Women Development and from the National Commission. Very, very few cases actually reach redressal. Very few people actually want to make a formal complaint. 90% of the time, most people who have a problem or who are complaining about sexual harassment just want the bad behavior to stop. Therefore, prevention. How can the internal committee prevent a matter from becoming into a full-fledged case? Or worse, these days, you are having social media trials, because the young generation is not afraid of speaking about sexual harassment. Very important to train the internal committee on encouraging employees to reach out informally. This is part of prevention. It doesn't need to be a full-fledged inquiry. Informal complaints help the internal committee create prevention in the organization. So we've had clients where there is one particular team where there's constant attrition, and a group of women reached out saying, we have a problem. Therefore, instead of an inquiry, what was decided was to have a specific workshop and sort of intervention created for this team to reinforce the fact that we are aware that there are some issues here, but we just want to train you and tell you that this is no longer okay, and these are some of the things that need to change, right? Internal committee meetings are, the quarterly meetings, the catch-up, and this is again something that the National Commission does very well, is these meetings are not to talk about how many complaints have come. These are meetings where you need to talk about what's happening in your organization. Is there attrition happening? Are women showing up? Have you done any workshops? What is your culture looking like? What are some of the things that are hearing? So the internal committee actually functions as ears on the ground. And, I've already covered this, is to say prevention intervention is not carpet bombing L&D. It is trying to figure out where is the problem and addressing that problem with an intervention that creates change. So I hope that when you go back tomorrow and when you start looking at PoSH compliance for 2026, you won't just look at your annual report and say, oh, we're compliant. We've done a workshop for employees. We've trained our IC. We've registered the IC. We have the required number of members. But I hope you will actually look at PoSH from a safety creation mechanism and not just redressal. I think that's all I had. I hope I have, managed to cover whatever I could without busting my time frame. And over to you, Ashwini.
Thank you very much, Priyanka. That is very, 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 very powerful. And actually, I wanted to tell now the audience that was a very technical and practical topic Priyanka has delivered. Because before it becomes a case, designing workplaces that prevent escalation was a topic given to her. I purposely did not declare it before the session as let people get the flavor of it first. So honestly, we wanted everyone to listen to it and then understand why we are here and the real purpose of having PoSH at workplace. So with general attendance, we have HRs and business stakeholders also here. This was much needed. So Priyanka, once again, very thank you. You have really brought everybody on same page again about PoSH. Exactly identified the crux of PoSH Act. Normalized conditioning the bad behaviors is how normal and how we as women look at it and how we should actually look at it. So what is a self-tap? And along with all other inputs, the gender neutral perspective and more than policy, how practical implementation is more evident. That was a big learning because yes, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of audience over here who is struggling in establishing the real PoSH like scenarios in their organizations because we know being in the industry it is very very difficult to it is very difficult to get the complete support total support from the top alliance and then implementing the PoSH becomes just a compliance than actual cultural requirement. So that was really very insightful and yes, the facts are going to be great guidance for traveling towards the goal of safe workplaces. So while addressing this, what I expected, rather what Team Sarvam expected from both the speakers is really we are much beyond our expectations. We have got the delivery today. We are definitely concluding on dignity is not a Women's Day conversation. It is a workplace design principle. And now, quickly, I would like to invite Amit again to take forward the flow for today.
Actually, I just had one point. It's like, when you were talking, I just remembered I had a session at for the sales people, right? And because I'm part of sales in BD and I've done it for years in my organizations. And they were like, Madam, we can't have women in our team because you know na how we do NCBC ke bina to hamara conversation hota hi nahi hai. So I made a chart and I wrote down all the bad words. And I said, okay, now all these bad words are about women. I said, even I get frustrated now. Come up with some gender neutral galis. तो हम साथ में फिर गाली देंगे, equalize करते हैं. Why keep women out? Considering you all always all the bad words about women only, na? And that sort of made them think. I said, you wouldn't speak like this in front of your women.
Exactly.
So let's make this about inclusion. Let's come up with 10 galis which both of us can use. Because I also get frustrated. I also want to abuse. But unfortunately, I can't think of a gali for the man. So let me just come up with something new. So it requires this conversation to, sometimes it's just blindness. It's chalta aa raha hai. Like, you go to a party and the number of jokes you hear about wives. And I don't find it funny. I don't find it funny. So my husband's approach is, Priya, can you not say anything? And I'm like, no, I will, because it's not right that you go for a party and two jokes, and all the men are laughing, and the women are also reluctantly laughing. Till there are women now who will just say, it's not funny. And that makes them think. So the speaking up is important. And to hell with our reputation as good women. नहीं बनना है good woman, नहीं बनना है super woman. बस human बना दो हमको. So it's important to speak up. Just say it. It's important to just say it.
Yes.
Sorry, Amit, I took away an extra 1 minute. Please go
No,
ahead.
no, not at all. Over to you, Amit.
Wow. Thank you, Priyanka. Very insightful perspectives, very honest and candid opinions and experiences again, and very, very important things around ethical implementation of governance. I mean, taking it beyond mere symbolic compliance, actually getting or weaving this as a part of the culture fabric of the workplace, of the company, so that it becomes very natural. It comes out naturally in the environment or in the atmosphere of the workplace. So that's very important. Thank you. And you highlighted something very crucial, that workplace concerns rarely appear suddenly. It's not a knee-jerk reaction. Usually, they are early signals, but before they become formal issues, people hardly, tend to identify those. So, thanks for that reinforcement of ideas and inputs. So, getting back to the audience, checking the interactive mode of the audience once again. Let's check in. Let's get in the second poll. I'll open the poll set two around this, the second discussion, and let us see what our participants have to say. And I'm sure that this poll is much shorter than any corporate appraisal form that we have to fill. So we should be getting candid opinion and in a very quick time. And I must say, very powerful sessions by both our speakers, and uh, taking us individually. I'm sure the participants we have would be having various career spans, some youngsters, some very, very veteran, very senior people here. But I'm sure most of them would have been compelled to think back or relate to some of their own experiences, where they should have stood up, where they should have taken a stand, or where they should have actually put their foot down on something. But yes, nevertheless, nevertheless, we can always do that from today, uh, henceforth, to help our own selves and to help others around us. And that doesn't pertain to any gender, as Priyanka mentioned here. So maybe another half a minute or so for the poll before we get into the next interesting part of this event.
Like Amit, you said, yes, we do get reminded of things that happen to us. And when Priyanka was talking about sales, I used to be in sales for a bit. I remember every Friday, guys would, all the sales guys, they would have a drink party. So that was a norm. Everybody has to go. And I was the only woman in the team. And, they would, just drink and be whatever they want. And I had to sit with the brazen and keep waiting. Okay, how do I go back home? I was not driving at that point in time. I was young. And, how do I go back? Does someone need to drop me? I have to ask my husband to pick me up, the cab. So, and the discussions, of course. So she already mentioned it, the MCs, BCs and all that, right? So you're one person out of place out there and you just have to bear with it. So we've done it in the past.
That is one of the uncomfortable truths that has come out in very prominently in today's discussion, and very sadly, unfortunately.
We are not even asked if we want to join them,
No, and Amit, what would happen is 27 years ago, when I did my CA, we were trying to get our feet in the door. There were hardly any women. So you said, you know what, abhi seh lete hain, seat mil jaye. I think that was a mistake.
I think you hit the nail. You can save your opinion or your input on that. That is definitely going to be a part of the interactive session that we have. One of the questions. So I think let's hear
Okay.
more from you in the next few minutes. Fine.
Actually,
I'll end the poll.
honestly, Amit, I would just like to share one thing. When we thought of dignity dialogues and when we thought of these topics, it did not give me any idea that practically it will help me to rewind everything. And in the past, whatever we have gone through and all that, yes, we are fortunate enough to come from a family background where we as daughters were supported very strongly, and nowhere we were made feel that you are a daughter, you are not son and all that. But when you are actually out in the practical scenario, in the practical world, when you the moment you step in, every step you realize, and people wonder now, means after 23 years of experience, I can say that every step people wonder that how you can do it यार, मतलब आप इतने strong कैसे हो सकते हो, आप ये कैसे कर सकते हो, and like, and everywhere when they are wondering, that time it is practically said, okay, you are like a man, you are like a man, you are like a man. You need not to say that. Come on, yeah, we all are humans, and we shall respect each other's identity. I always tell in my sessions that naturally we are made with specific characteristics as a man, as a woman, and then let's respect it. That's all is important. Yes, sorry, over to you.
No problem. Thanks for those ideas being shared. See, I'm reading a few responses. One question we had: should posh conversations extend beyond gendered framing? And very happy to see that all the participants who have submitted their inputs are saying yes, it should stand for dignity for all, beyond gender. So yes, thank you for those responses. Actually remind us that workplace culture is just not just shaped by policies, but by everyday thoughts, everyday behavior, how people around us respond, how we support each other, and speak up when something doesn't feel right, even if it's not always for their own selves. Standing up and speaking up is important in workplace as well as at the in the community arena. So thanks people for those inputs and those opinions that shared. Well, that takes us to the next interactive session, as we had shared in the session plan, in the event plan. I would be inviting all the three speakers, that is Pallavi ji, uh, and Priyanka ji, and our very own Ashwini Patwardhan. She almost has changed her last name these days. And it's time I go into rather behind the spotlight. I would take the ladies be in the spotlight again. And yes, interactive segment of today's dignity dialogues. Not that it was not interactive. We had quite a few participants sharing their opinion on chat as well and in the polls. Let's take the interaction to the next level with a quick Q&A segment. We have a few set of questions which I will throw up to each of the speakers and get their perspectives beyond what they have shared now. The two powerful perspectives, one through personal experiences and the other through organization responsibility perspective. So that's a different perspective that came in from Priyanka as well. And to bring these ideas together, we'll spend the next few minutes in a short but meaningful conversation with our speakers. So I just get into the session. Question one to Pallavi ji. If you can unmute Miss Pallavi.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thanks. You spoke about moments early in your career when you sometimes chose silence instead of speaking up. The question is, looking back today, why do you think many young professionals actually just a minute, feel that staying quiet is actually the more professional thing to do? It aligns more to their early career professional aspirations, maybe. You can throw your light on that.
Yeah, so when I started my career, actually, I genuinely believed that keeping quiet in certain moments was a sign of maturity. So that being the professional meant being agreeable. That's if I just did good work, the work would speak for itself. But for a while, I held on to that belief actually. But then after that, I realized over the next 2 decades, the reason young professionals stay silent isn't because they don't have opinions. It's because they have been taught through observation, through signals, through body language of senior people in the room that speaking up carrying a certain risk, especially for women. So when if a woman speaks too early in the meeting, she's labeled as aggressive. If she pushes back an idea, she's difficult. If she's confident, then she's arrogant. So she learns very quickly the safest strategy is silence. And the tragedy is we reward that silence. We call it professionalism or we call it grace. So I will give you a quick example of mine, which I've already told what happened in a cooperative bank. So at that point of time, I thought, ki, let my work speak for itself. But now, if you go to see, then over the years, there have been we cannot be silent at all times. So there are times we must speak out, and that was a result of the culture at that time. But now I feel there are certain situations where we cannot be silent; we must speak out. So my honest answer to this is: young professionals stay silent because system has made them feel that being silent helps them feel safe. But there are times we must speak out. There are times we must be silent. So it works both ways.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the powerful reminders that professional behaviors may actually be hesitation shaped by workplace cultures more than personal traits or personal responses. So thanks, Pallavi. Firing the next question to Priyanka ji. When people repeatedly choose silence in these small moments, how does that gradually begin to shape the culture of the workplace?
See, more often than not, I think, Amit, what happens with silence is it's seen as consent. I
Right.
don't think people understand that sometimes you're silent because you're angry. So silence in any scenario where, even at home, I'll take the home example, is, the way the men in your family, when they scream and shout, you'll see the women in the house saying, it's okay, Baba is stressed out, or, this is normal. But women who scream at home as moms become like these crazy witches. Like we need a broom or a jhadu or something, and we're like all over the place. I think the idea of keeping silent at work no longer works. And we are in 2026, and we've seen that so many things, the whole bad word stuff that we spoke about. I just spoke about BCMC becoming normalized in a sales meeting or a sales call, is because we've been silent or because we have laughed at women jokes at parties. It takes one person to call it out for it to become a revolution. Therefore, I think silence is overrated. Don't assume people can read your face or people can, understand that silence sometimes is strength. I think it's time we speak up now. But speak up in a manner that is respectful. Uh, there's a tact, there's a way, there's a training of how do you put something across without being offensive, but assertive. ऐसे women are badnaam that a woman who speaks up is aggressive. So own it now, but speak up.
Yes.
Speak up. Speak up.
Great. A very important perspective again. Culture is, as we know, is rarely defined by one incident. It's the patterns which we accept or which we follow blindly, which gives rise to or rather encourages negative behavior by the people around us, and then it becomes a norm. Sadly. Thank you. The next question is for Ashwini. Ashwini, you in your earlier address, you mentioned that dignity at work is often shaped by everyday interactions. rather than only major incidents. So the question is, from your experience working with organizations during your career and during your time with Sarvam, what are some subtle behaviors that you see have been quietly eroding dignity, and how can the leaders, the powers to be, address them before they actually escalate beyond a certain point?
Yes, thank you for that question. Actually, this is very important. In my experience of working closely with organizations, dignity at the workplace is rarely broken by one dramatic incident. More often, it slowly fades through small or everyday behaviors that people begin to overlook or normalize. It may start, which I have practically experienced, with a casual comment about someone's appearance that was never invited, or a joke that everyone laughs at, except the person it is about. A woman being repeatedly interrupted in meetings, like we have heard over here, or her idea being acknowledged only when someone else repeats it. Sometimes it is also subtle exclusion. So I have practically experienced when I used to give any suggestions and all that. My top bosses who have been males, obviously the GMs or the plant heads or the directors, they would not take it seriously at the first time, or they would just show that they are ignorant about it. But then when the same idea is coming from their pocket, it becomes the great idea. I have practically experienced it. Individually, these moments may seem minor, but when they happen repeatedly, they quietly send a message about who is respected, whose voice matters, and who is expected to tolerate discomfort in silence. And that is where dignity begins to erode, not loudly, but gradually. And that helped me to take a firm step at one point of time. But as Pallavi man earlier said, and even Priyanka also focused, that believing in yourself and making yourself strong was very important. So very often, by the time a matter reaches the stage of formal complaint, now as we see, being a posh experts in the industry, the person has already experienced a series of such movements that made the workplace feel less safe and less respectful. This is where leadership becomes extremely important, and leaders must recognize that posh is not only about responding to complaints. In fact, yesterday in one of the company where I happened to be the guest for Women's Day celebrations, the director, who was 70-year-old person, he himself said that the women employees who are coming to my office, they should feel exactly at home. And that is what since past 35 years we are trying to do. And such kind of awareness, such kind of a culture, when it comes from the leadership itself, definitely it is also contributing in shaping the everyday culture of the organization. So because very often sexual harassment cases do not begin with one big incident, they begin with small behaviors that were ignored for too long. And that is why I always say dignity at the workplace is built or broken in everyday interactions. When respect becomes a habit in small moments, safety naturally follows. So that's the mantra.
Wow, thanks, Ashwini. Very important things which all of us should adhere to for ourselves and again for people around us. So I can say relatable references or relatable things coming out from each of the talks, but yes, they happen to be the core values or the core things that happen to shape the culture at a workplace and ensuring safety and mental peace at the workplace. The next quick question would be for Pallavi ji. Uh, if you could speak to your younger self starting your career today, okay, taking you back some time, what is the one workplace behavior or dynamic you would no longer accept as normal? Consider yourself to be one of the Gen Z person now.
Yeah, what you said? What is one behavior?
What if you could speak to your younger self starting your career today? What is one workplace behavior you would no longer accept as normal?
Okay, I think it is that I would stop accepting the idea that a woman has to work twice as hard just as to be seen as equal. Because I did that. I said at the starting of the career, ki, let my work speak for itself. So I did exceptional work quietly, consistently, hoping that the results would eventually speak loud for people to notice. But when that shareholder in the bank AGM called me a showpiece, I didn't fight it publicly. I said to him, let my work do the talking. Or when the production manager on the pharma floor didn't want me around, I didn't complain. I just kept showing up. Frankly speaking, the work did speak, but it takes a longer time. And here's that nobody tells you the cost of patience is enormous. The energy you spend proving yourself is the energy you spend building, creating, leading, innovating. So that tax, what I've been talking about in my speech, the invisible tax of being a woman in the professional world, is something I would not pay quietly anymore. So I would walk into the AGM today and say that I am not a showpiece. I am a chartered accountant. I was elected to this board and I'm here to do the job. And then I'll get on with it. So over 20 years, a lot of things have changed. I wouldn't do things today that I have done before. So we are working for we are answering exams which are on the same level as the men answered. So why we should have to work twice for it to show our credibility. So I would do things differently today than I have done 20 years back. If in front of the production manager, I would directly tell him, I am going to learn, come whatever you may. I would not be quiet. I would directly tell him, this is what I want to learn and this is what you have to teach me. So I would have done definitely things differently today. And I feel women today are so much equal to men and we don't need to prove ourselves twice today. So to every woman starting a career today, I would say, don't wait 20 years to claim the room. Claim it now. Your qualification earned you that seat. Your competence keeps you there. And anyone who questions your presence, that's their limitation, not yours. So go on, wishing everybody a happy Women's Day today again.
Wow, thanks for that. One final question in our session. I'm sending it to or shooting to Priyanka ji. Priyanka ji, you have been talking about organizations today having policies and reporting systems in place. Yet people still hesitate to raise concerns early. In your experience, if I can ask you, what usually creates that hesitation and how should people uh, instantly and immediately overcome that hesitation?
So
In your
I
own interest.
have a slightly different take on this, Amit. I think it's very important that if I want to raise a complaint, there has to be trust.
Right.
But most of the times I have noticed that people that are supposed to hold my trust in an organization, whether it's HR, whether it's the internal committee, they are the ones that go and talk about issues to the rest of the organization. So unfortunately, whistleblowers are the first ones to get eliminated from the organization. I've had clients come to me and tell me that जब आप women's workshop करते हो, let us know which are the women that are talking too much. And later on, I realized these are the women that have been sidelined. So when I do sessions, I actually tell women, men, whoever I work with, that unless you feel safe, don't be a hero. Don't be a hero. Because finally, if I'm going to lose my job because I'm speaking up, or if I'm going to be, sidelined in my career after working so hard to get to where I am, don't speak up. But I think the SheBox portal is a great initiative as far as, but that's unfortunately just, thank you, Vinita. That's unfortunately just for women. But I think it's the reason that people don't speak up is because they don't trust people who are supposed to hold their confidence. It's like at home, right? If my child comes to me and tells me something in confidence and I go discussing it with 20 people, your child will not come to you. I can guarantee you that. As a close friend, trust and keeping confidence, that doesn't happen. So I feel the IC needs to be appointed by a board of directors. The IC needs to be independent. The external member cannot be the spouse of the promoter or the chachi, tai, sister, friend. The gravitas of trust is what is missing. So I will encourage people not to speak up. Don't put yourself in the firing line. Already sexual harassment se pareshan ho, then you go to the IC and then suddenly you become the problem. So trust, and I'm hoping that changes. I hope that changes.
Well, thank you. Thanks for that. And just as you can, most of you can see the background that has changed. This is the crux of the discussion that has and the topic that we have chosen and that has come out from all your inputs, the expert inputs, the discussions we had,
Fabulous.
Ashwini's feedback. That dignity cannot and should not remain a Women's Day conversation. It must be a workplace design principle which everybody aligns with from day one till the last day of working in that organization. So I now would ask Ashwini to conclude this part, and then our colleague Shivani will do the honors of closing this event. So thank you for your time. Thanks to all the participants from Amit Jadhav here.
Thank you,
Bye.
Amit. Concluding the part and all, that is fine, but it is very important with this dignity dialogues, what we are supposed to take forward with these eminent dignitaries who have shared their frank but straightforward, insightful views. We have come up with a concept called posh warriors. I would definitely like to throw some light on that, and I would like to hand over to Shivani further. The warrior concept, which I always speak about, is not referring to a designation or a position in the organization. I always tell there is a IC, okay, minimum 4 members required for the sake of, say, to cover the reach. People create, people appoint 6 members or 7 members in the committee, maximum 10 members if the organization is very big. But then to reaching out to that committee, again, you need to create the second line. So we call the second line as the posh warriors, because
Nice.
the incidents at the, at the ground level reality, whatever happens, it may get unnoticed. Even these, it has to run through the co-workers, it has to run through the supervisors, then the next line, say executives or the assistant managers, then managers, and then they will approach HR, and then HR will tell that you are okay, we will contact IC and all that. So this posh warriors concept, I always tell in my sessions, please create posh warriors. It is not a trademark or copyright of server, but it's a concept wherein it can be anyone, a manager or a colleague or a team member who is who is willing to become the equally blessed to do the social service at the workplace. Because I always tell IC people, do they get the double salary for being the IC members? No, obviously not. They are the blessed ones, they are the chosen ones who get the opportunity to do the social work, to give back to the society, to give back to their own community in their own way, to by safeguarding the interest at the workplaces. So the theme for today's Women's Day, International Women's Day, is give to gain, and that is how a posh warrior can act upon. The posh warrior consciously chooses to stand up for dignity, respect, and fairness in every moment. And in many ways, they become the first line of cultural responsibility within the organization. So, because the internal committee becomes active only when a matter reaches the stage of complaint, but dignity at the workplace must be protected much before that moment arrives. And posh warrior plays the vital role. Organizations can consciously nurture such individuals by going beyond legal awareness and creating meaningful conversations around respect and boundaries and workplace behavior. So, for us, POSH is not just a policy or a compliance checklist. POSH is a passion. For Sarvam, posh is a passion, definitely. In fact, in 2024, we handled one case which is a rape at the workplace that made posh more than a profession, a passion for our team. And reaching out now there with positivity for creating awareness, for establishing courage and respect has become our mission of a lifetime. Because when more and more people become posh warriors, dignity at the workplace stops being the responsibility of a committee and becomes a living culture of the organization. Now, I would like to highlight over here that we all are posh warriors here. Whether we have participated in this dignity dialogue by being a professional or being an individual, a self practitioner, right from the team who has curated it to the participants and the eminent speakers. Pallavi ma'am represented employer's perspective, even being into the employer's share, how she has faced these stigmas in her early stages and how she has dealt with. And Priyanka definitely represented from the employee's perspective as well as being the consultant, being the posh experts. Suggesting or consulting the organization. So I hope this conclave has been very, very insightful. I am now formally thank you all of you as this is my last address, and this is a sincere request to all of you. We will be uploading this on our YouTube channel and sharing the link with all of you. So please share it with those people who matters for you. It is not for general awareness, general public display, but who matters. With them, we are going to be there always. So that is a message from my conclusion today. Be a true posh warrior. Stay safe, stay healthy, and nurture yourself and others as well. So over to you, Shivani. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ashwini, for igniting the posh warriors within all of us. Now, as we come to the close of this Truth Lab, what we've heard is not just individual opinions, they're signal about workplace cultures, right? I mean, definitely something I'm going to take away is don't wait 20 years, to claim the room. Or that, if you have 0 cases at your organization, it's not a true barometer of the ground realities, right? So, dignity is not sustained by policy alone. We are sustained by behavior, awareness, and early intervention. Now, POSH was never intended to function only as an escalation point, right? As we have already spoken, there is also the prevention part, the intervention part, not just the redressal. So it's a preventive framework, and it helps organizations weave dignity into culture. And culture is not built in moments of crisis. That's again something we covered today. It's built in daily interactions. So International Women's Day reminds us why dignity matters. And SARVAM'S commitment is to ensure it does not remain a day-specific reflection. And when does our we ignition or the posh warrior ignition begin? When leaders recognize the influence they carry, when it goes top down, when employees trust system enough to speak openly, and when small discomforts are addressed even before they grow. So this is how we move from compliance to consciousness, how we weave dignity into culture. I would say consistently, deliberately, and sustainably. And perhaps the most important takeaway for today, it would be dignity cannot remain a Women's Day conversation. It's not about 8th March. It must become a workplace design principle. The Truth Lab may close here today. Weaving of dignity begins now. And before we sign off, let me leave you with a small reflection to carry back to your workplaces. Next time you notice a moment of discomfort, a silence in a meeting, or a comment that subtly changes the energy of a conversation or the energy in the room, pause for a moment. Because culture does not shift through grand gestures. It shifts when someone chooses to be aware over silence, when you speak up. And this is where posh warriors truly make a difference. So on behalf of SARVAM, my sincere thanks to all our wonderful speakers, Ms. Pallavi Salgaonkar, Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi Agarwal, for their insight, honesty, leadership in today's dialogue, and also using their Sunday morning for this amazing deliberation. Special word of thanks to Team SARVAM, whose quiet effort behind the scenes, I would definitely mention Amit there, made Dignity Dialogues 2026 possible. And thank you to each one of you for choosing substance over symbolism this Sunday morning and being part of SARVAM Dignity Dialogues 2026. We look forward to continue this conversation across many more workplaces. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Can I? Yes, before concluding, Shivani, I would request all of you to switch on their videos and let's have a group photo.
Yes. Let's do that.
And this is the QR code which will be shared with all of you, which you people have to scan and share your feedback. And also there is small survey. Based on this, definitely your participation certificates will be delivered at your registered email ID. So I would request Amit to share it with everybody, and let's now come into the gallery and what Shivani said, whoever wants to do whichever action or this we can, but this is more powerful and this is more elegant. So,
What is
whatever.
powerful? Show me the powerful wala.
Yeah, more power to you.
Yes.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. We need everyone's video on. Cameras on, please.
Yes.
Please.
Let's do one microaggression.
Yes.
Can we have all the cameras on so we can see the pretty ladies in the meeting? Subtle microaggression. आपकी शक्ल देख के दिन ताजा हो जाता है. The number of times I've heard that.
And those two males who stood by us, Amit, the creator of this concept, and silent supporter Atul, who has technically managed this event. So,
by Atul, she
ready
means
to punch out
Mr.
the
Atul
boundaries.
Patwardhan.
So, just to share on a lighter note, we are having Amit and we are having Shraddha, who is better off Amit, who is supported her husband to generate or to execute the Women's Day program very successfully, and my better half, Atul, who has silently given the technical support. So, yes. So, definitely the family support matters, and that's why we can do the difference to the world that everybody will accept. So done? Is it done? The photograph. Okay, again we'll just see why spotlight has started.
Who's capturing the image, Ashwini?
Sorry?
Oh, we are all expecting somebody else to capture the image.
Yeah, I'm capturing Suraj. Okay, I can see Suraj also. He is a long-term buddy. I'm so happy to see you, Suraj, because in Women's Day Conclave, being a true hardcore HR, you have shown your 100% support over here. So Harsha, Shraddha, Maria, Sumedha, Vinita, I request everybody to start your video so that I can capture the moment. Yes. So ready to go?
Say 1, 2, 3.
Okay, with heart. Harsha has suggested for a heart. Okay.
Okay. Now.
Yes, you must get the. You must have received the message on your screen that Amit is trying to take the group picture. So that's a very great feature. Please accept it.
If you can allow, it will help us create one. It will help us weave one big picture within the app.
Done for everybody?
Yes.
No, I believe
Can you just put
You,
the message again, Amit?
uh,
Okay.
did you not click on allow? Yeah, let me see.
Please share the message again
I'll
of
have
group
to
photo.
pop up that screen again. I mean, I could just a minute, just a minute. I'll do that again. I'll send the request again in a while. Take photo. Okay, click on
Okay.
allow, please. Everybody click on allow. Yeah, quite a few being added this time. Ashwini, in the meantime, you can also click, since there are many people here, you can also click on your mobile just
Yes,
for
yes,
our
yes. I
reference.
have already taken the screenshots. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, fine, fine. I think
So we will share it with
we are
everybody.
5 minutes beyond 12 now. So let's allow our participants to get back to their families on a Sunday afternoon now. We started in the morning. So thank you everybody for your participation. And as Akwini mentioned,
Much for having.
I had shared the QR code for the post-event feedback form just a while back. I'll also be sending it to your WhatsApp number, which you had shared yesterday, so that you can. I mean, we would eagerly request you to share your feedback. It will be very helpful, and it will also help us send back your participation certificates on that number. So thank you once again. And if any of the ladies, I mean, allow the ladies to take the lead and step back.
I think Pallavi madam was saying something.
No, I just said thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.